Yeah, we'll just continue from where we were. Hello, welcome back to Sports Talk. Today I'm going to keep it quite short and sweet because it's very simple. And I need as many fans as possible to listen to it. I know not a lot of people will, and that's a shame. Because I think millions of people could learn from what I'm about to say. Right. Let's have a brief talk first about football, particularly in the Premier League. To be honest, most of the topics I'm away to discuss is primarily English-speaking fans, it seems to be. Right, so recently, Unai Emery, 4 or 5-time Europa League winner, Liga 1 winner with PSG, gets fired from Arsenal. Barely, I don't even think 2 years into his career there. Pretty sure Arsene Wenger lasted longer than 2 years. Anyway, so this great manager is gone. They've brought in Freddie Ljungberg, an old crowd favourite. They're using the good old Chelsea technique and the Manchester United technique, which seems to be, well, our teams, doesn't matter how good the manager we hire is, our teams are not good enough. And unfortunately, it is way cheaper to replace a manager than it is an entire team. But this is now where we're getting ridiculous. We're getting ridiculous with all of it. It's going too far. Why? And in what world, right? Seriously, in what world, right, will Arsenal do better with another manager? Who else is there? I mean, Max Allegri, the guy from Juventus, what's he going to be able to bring to the table that Unai Emery didn't? Nothing. Because the squad will still be the same, and even if he implements his own changes, the rest of the team is still not good enough. I'm not an Arsenal fan, by the way, so this isn't an Arsenal fan rant. This is... I'm trying to look at this from as non-biased a perspective as possible. And I've now realized that I'm just looking at it from an intelligent fan. And this also bridges into wrestling, which I'm away to talk about. But we really need to stop blaming managers for teams playing shit. Right? We really have to stop. Because it's getting too much now. We're now getting to the point where teams will never get better. They'll never improve. They'll never have anything different because they keep changing things. And that's... It works for Chelsea, but the only reason it works for Chelsea is because it's a chain reaction. Chelsea have been the best team in England over the last 20 years. Every time a new manager has stepped in, there's been at least 3 or 4 Chelsea players that have won the Champions League or the league title. Right? You don't get that with Arsenal. Right? You don't get that with Arsenal. You have time to build. Fucking Jurgen Klopp took on Brendan Rodgers' Liverpool. They weren't league champions. They weren't Champions League champions. And how many years has Klopp been at Liverpool? 3 or 4? And now they're competitive. But were they competitive at first? No, they were just Liverpool. They were just there. But over time, they got better. Arsenal are never going to get better. Yes, they held on to Wenger too long, but they've also just let go of Emery too early. How is that ever going to improve? It's not. It's never going to improve. This mindset really needs to change. Because it's cancerous. It's cancerous, and it comes out in the fans, and the more, you know, criticism, unwarranted criticism you get over certain players, the more the fans claim to be experts. Again, I'm not taking the high and mighty road, because here I am doing the exact same thing. Right? I am not an idiot. That's the difference. But I'm aware this is happening to me. That this is happening to my mood and all these things. And I can't help it because it's completely out of my control. That people are just that ignorant. That people are just that stupid within the world of sport. And the fans are the worst part about it. And now we're going to get into a slightly more cancerous group of fans. Wrestling fans. Wow. Like, if you've paid attention to social media, right, and you've ever watched what happens between wrestling fans, right, it's pretty bad. But since AEW, the new wrestling company, has started, it has gone a whole other level. They have managed to take the hate and everything else. It's just unbelievable, you know, and it's heartbreaking because it's like, can we not just enjoy it? Yeah, I get it. WWE are the bigger company. They're probably going to get rid of AEW. So is that not a better reason to enjoy AEW whilst we still have it? Whilst it actually exists? This isn't the next WCW because WCW were trying to do something that no one had done. And that was displace WWE as the #1 wrestling show. AEW are not going for that. Because they know they can make a decent amount of money off the indies. Because that's what these guys have just done. AEW are not trying to be the next WCW. They're not trying to take WWE's market audience. And this is why. WWE treat their fans like idiots, right? That is no big secret. But I have discovered why. Not just on Twitter, on every social media platform, from watching shows. WWE fans are dumb. And I'm not sure if that's an American thing or if this is a wrestling fan thing. Again, I'll be more specific, a WWE wrestling fan thing. Because now that I've watched the indies, I've gotten to watch so much like historical stuff. I've seen so many matches of current WWE stars before they went to WWE, and their matches were better out of the WWE. Like, Daniel Bryan is awesome in WWE, but Bryan Danielson, his character on the independent scene, was awesome. The Red Dragon was awesome, you know. And this will all go underappreciated because all the dumb fans want to keep comparing it to WWE. And this is very smart by WWE. Because again, they think the fans are dumb, so this plays right into their hands. All WWE has done, right, is take the things that NXT promised to do and start doing them themselves. Right? That is what they've done. And the fans can't handle that. AEW fans can't handle that. WWE fans can't handle that. WWE fans refuse to accept that that's the truth. AEW fans just think it's very scummy, which it is. It's extremely scummy in my opinion. But hey ho. I've gotten in so many, not even arguments, you know. It's people looking for arguments, but then just get shot down because what they say is so wrong, so misinformed, and you would think in the quote-unquote information age that we're living in, people would be better at reading and taking in information and thinking for themselves. It's worked in the opposite way. By providing more information and making it more accessible, people have become more dumb. They misread things, they react. I'm not sure if I've talked about this on here. I've talked about it with friends and family. This is a reactionary society. No one wants you to think about anything. People want you to react to stuff. Now, AEW are trying to tell stories, and they're trying to tell long-term stories. This thing with Cody and MJF, for example, this isn't going to happen at the next pay-per-view. It's going to be a while before we get Cody versus MJF, and most of the fans will probably say, oh, they took too long. And it's like, no, they didn't. This is just what storytelling should be like. And the other thing I hate, this is the thing that really shows off how narrow-minded the fans are. AEW will never be able to make a star like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Right. Stone Cold was not Stone Cold when he started wrestling. Steve Austin, I'm not sure if he started as Stunning Steve Austin or if it was just Steve Austin, but he was not the guy everybody knows and loves today. He was very much a nobody, and it took a character change. Does that sound familiar, Miss Becky Lynch? Right? That it's down to the fans. Stuff like that is down to the fans' control. And this is what's amazing, is that they're willing to do that for WWE, but they're unwilling to do it for AEW because they don't have faith in AEW. They're a new company, they're gonna be shit. As if WWE has given them things to be, you know, as if WWE give you a reason to trust them. They don't give you a reason to trust them. They're terrible. They don't stick to stories. They don't do anything that treats you like a smart fan. WWE is like putting on one wrestling show one week and then putting on another wrestling show the next week. I'm not talking about like just a show like a show in general. I'm talking like a completely different company every week. They just happen to have the same roster. Because the stories don't connect. They drop things on a weekly basis, and it's exhausting. And then you see people teaming up who have been rivals for years, and you're just like, oh, give me a break. This is all bullshit. There's not a single genuine bit of heat or story in this whatsoever. And the fans love it. Like, does that not tell you something? When the fans are into stuff that doesn't make sense, that is borderline mindless, right? Does that not tell you something about the way things are and the way people think? Again, I get people that might call me a hypocrite for this opinion. Like I said, here I am giving my opinion and people will disagree with it. But mine is from a logical perspective, not just from being a fan for the sake of being a fan, which you get the vibe is what WWE fans are clinging onto, because what else can they say? If you tell people, if you told your best friend, say you're into wrestling, your best friend isn't into wrestling, right? If you showed them Raw or SmackDown this week, or any week from this year, do you honestly think that they would go, that looks interesting, that seems like a good show? No. I've shown AEW to 4 people. 4 non-wrestling people. 4 people who thought wrestling was the biggest joke in sports. And they all love it. For various reasons. Right? That's not bias. Right? That's not called calling out WWE. That's called calling out reality. Showing you what's going on, right? I am not biased for pointing out the obvious. I am not biased for liking AEW, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that you should all boycott WWE because it's shit, right? We're coming up to the Royal Rumble. The road to WrestleMania, which starts at the Royal Rumble, is the most exciting time to be a wrestling fan. And even if they get it wrong, you don't care, because the spectacle of WrestleMania just overrides that. It's all about the spectacle in WWE. There's nothing wrong with that. A spectacle is entertaining. That's why they still have millions of people watch their show. But if you don't want to be mind fucked for the other like 9-8 months of the year, do not watch WWE, because it'll drive you insane trying to understand it. Trust me, as someone who who loves to fantasy book, as someone who loves to write stories, WWE is a mindfuck. And you have to be of a very, very, very anal high intelligence to understand what's going on. And you understand that it has nothing to do with the wrestlers. It has everything to do with Vince McMahon and a team of writers. And that just says it all. This is wrestling. There's a team of writers. So when you find that out, you really question just how much of what you hear isn't genuine. I mean, it's all ungenuine in WWE. It's very rarely genuine. I don't really think there's that many genuine people right now in the company. I think it's scummy. I think a lot of the people are scummy. And I don't think it's necessarily because of the person's personality. I think it's because they're being warped into being bad people because they're miserable under the circumstances. And they know. The thing is, the wrestlers are smart fans. Wrestlers are marks, most of them. You know, exceptions of like Goldberg and shit like that. But like CM Punk is a mark. Cody Rhodes is a mark. And everyone like uses that as an insult. Mark isn't an insult. Mark means that you know your wrestling history. So I've been called a mark a few times, and I'm like, I'm not a mark, but not because of the way you think. I'm not saying that I'm not a mark because you called me a mark. I'm not a mark because I can't rattle off history of wrestling. But anyway, these are people who genuinely love the sport, and a team of writers, that's just never going to come across as genuine through these people, because all their lives, all of their training, they've been told again and again, you've got to do it yourself. You've got to make yourself compelling. You've got to make your moveset compelling. And then when you get to the top of the league, to WWE, you're told to do what someone else wants you to do. I mean, does that not seriously baffle you as a fan? Like, does that not just hurt your brain? That you spent your whole life writing stories, making yourself interesting, you get to the top, and you have no control whatsoever. Not a shred of control. Because an old man is afraid to relinquish control because he's afraid of dying. Again, might sound harsh, but what else is it? Yes, Vince McMahon is a control freak, but why is he a control freak? Is it just because it's his baby, which it isn't? It's his dad's baby, which he then elevated. Is it that he's so caught up now focusing on the XFL that he's just going, yeah, alright, sure, whatever. Because he's so distracted that he doesn't care, and the XFL hasn't even started yet. Once it starts, right, if Vince McMahon does not relinquish control of the WWE, once the XFL starts, WWE will be unwatchable. I guarantee it. It will be completely unwatchable. It'll be nonsensical, it'll be stagnant, it'll look like how the show does now, except worse. Because eventually, right, this is the thing, we're at a place right now where no stars are being built, right? The Shield, who, let's face it, were carrying WWE on their backs, and even when Ambrose left, who's the two guys that are running things? Rollins on Raw, Reigns on SmackDown. The Shield was the last group that I can think of that have actually got proper build, proper time, proper story, proper angles, stuff that makes sense, right? What happens when they go? Because no one's been built after that. Everyone else who's considered a big deal are on NXT. Like AJ, he's not got long left. John Cena's gone. Randy Orton. he gets a pop because he's Randy Orton, and the RKO is the most over finisher in the world. But his matches are really, really slow, and they're boring, and you have to watch it. And if he's not in there with a young, athletic, flippy dude, don't watch Randy Orton's matches. I used to love Randy Orton, so don't think that I'm a prick, just randomly hating. I have a Randy Orton stuff from when I was younger. I loved Randy Orton. I saw Randy Orton live, and at the time, he was awesome. He was really good, but he was the Viper. He was vicious. He had a snap, not just to the RKO, but to everything he did. There was a quick snap feel to it. Now he just feels like a big lumbering mid-40s guy, which is exactly what he is. And that is such a shame, because he's the Viper. He's the snake. You know, he is supposed to be the quick, dangerous one, and he's not quick at all. Ali's quick, Buddy Murphy's quick, Cedric Alexander's quick. None of these people have been built at all. They've all been buried. They've all taken more losses already than the Shield did at this point on the main roster. Everything's just wrong. They just can't do anything right. And I remember the interview with Jon Moxley, you know, Moxley saying he didn't want to leave WWE because of all the money, because his wife was working there. But he still felt like he was forced to leave because the stuff that he was being asked to do was utter garbage. Like, that's just such a shame, you know. It's just... The fact of the matter is, AEW wouldn't exist if WWE were good. That's a fact. WWE are always going to have an audience. They're always going to have money. They're always going to be a big name because they are the name in wrestling. Okay, they are the name in wrestling. Right? But if the name starts to get stale, and no one can tell me it hasn't, because Raw and SmackDown struggle for 3 million viewers, and 20 years ago they were at 10 million. Right, so no one can tell me that WWE is as good as it used to be, because only a fifth of the people who used to watch it. And the rest of the fans, they clearly got so pissed off with wrestling that they didn't even tune into AEW. They don't tune into NXT. They haven't gone to Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan. These fans have just gone. So unless all of those wrestling fans were 60, 70-year-olds, where the fuck did they go? Wrestling stopped being cool because of WWE, because of the way they did things, because it's not good. It's not good. And not a single person in the world can tell me it is good. You can tell me the production value is great, because it is. You can tell me that the talent are very good, because they are. The WWE signed the best in the world. That's a fact, right? But what's also a fact is that doesn't matter if you've got the best wrestlers in the world, if you're going to tie them down to what the writers and what Vince McMahon want them to do, it's not going to be as good as it should be. And that's exactly what it is. Roman Reigns, right? Could you imagine if Roman Reigns walked into AEW? Could you imagine the insanity that would ensue? The utter breaking of the internet. Vince McMahon probably having a heart attack. Yeah, just the impact, the pop from the crowd. If you were in that crowd and Roman Reigns made a surprise appearance in AEW, I guarantee you, people would lose their shit way more than they would have CM Punk appeared in AEW, right? And what did Roman Reigns do on SmackDown last week? He won a match, and he got smothered with dog food. That is $1 billion. That is wrestling when you have $1 billion, people. Fox pays you $1 billion and you give them a can of dog food, a dog costume, and fucking Baron Corbin acting... People just haven't learned that Corbin didn't have heat. Corbin had go-home heat. People wanted him away from the screen like they wanted Shane McMahon away from the screen. Nobody wants to see his face. And it's not because he's a bad wrestler. It's because they did book him well as a heel. But they booked him into a corner. Right? It's all well and good he's a heel. But if he's a heel no one wants to pay to see, then what is the point? WWE do not know how to make stars. Sorry, the WWE writers do not know how to make stars. They don't know how to make heels. Actually, take that back. They know how to make heels. They don't know how to make good heels. On the very rare occasion, someone will take a bit of control into their own hands. A little bit like what Finn Balor's done. A little bit like what Kevin Owens has done. But look at what they've had to do to earn that. Finn Balor's been injured 3 or 4 times. Former Universal Champion, Intercontinental Champion. Kevin Owens, former Universal Champion, former Intercontinental Champion, a former US Champion as well. They've had to win almost everything just to earn the right to have a little bit of freedom on the mic. Because you hear other stories of guys who aren't like title holders, like say Big Cass. Big Cass opened his mouth and got fired. And he didn't say anything bad, he just went off script. And I'm totally exposing the business like everyone else when you talk about scripts and all that. But that's why WWE isn't believable. And AEW... The cheek of the fans to say that the writers have got AEW wrong. It's like, there's no writers. Have you literally... Do these people literally just troll? Like, or are they legitimately that stupid? I'm gonna go with stupid, which ties in my original point. Sports fans. Life is fucking miserable. Politicians make us miserable. Businessmen make us miserable. Hell, even our families can make us miserable from time to time. If you can't enjoy sport, then you are going to die a really unhappy, unfulfilled person. And that's not, and this isn't me with giving the whole moral code, right? Because I'm going to die an unhappy person because I was born a human into a human race full of ignorant, selfish, stupid, self-absorbed people. And I've become one. Here I am, giving my ignorant opinions online, hoping that people will listen because I believe I have the message. I'm no different. We're all like this. We've been made into this. But when it comes to wrestling, please, I beg the fans. Absolutely beg the fans. Just start to listen. It's not hard. Just listen to what they say. Listen to what AEW say. This was the amazing thing. The biggest quote-unquote controversy over AEW was Jungle Boy's quote-unquote title shot against Chris Jericho. AEW told us win and loss records were gonna matter. So why is Jungle Boy getting a title shot with Chris Jericho when he hasn't had a win yet? It was never said once it was a title match. Not once. The fans are just, they are waiting. They are just waiting for anything to bury AEW. And it goes beyond the point of you know, personal preference, and just becomes hating for the sake of hating because it's the cool new thing to do. And I think that's exactly what's happened already. Already I can see that's happened. Because it's true, I mean, how can people honestly say already AEW has failed? How can people honestly say that AEW hasn't delivered? AEW is beating NXT in the ratings. NXT is, what, 10 years old? 9 years old? It's been around for a fucking while. and they can't beat AEW consistently. You cannot tell me AEW is not delivering. AEW has gained over 800,000 consistent fans since they came to TV. NXT, I reckon 2/3 of that audience came from the network, or at least a third. They haven't done as well on TV. I don't care what the ratings say. They've been around for longer. If Raw all of a sudden changed channel and AEW beat them, you would, you know, what's the excuse? Because they shouldn't have lost. Like, am I a bad guy? Like, am I really wrong about this? Because I really don't think I am. But the amount of fans that disagree with me, I start to wonder, well, am I the stupid one? And then I read, like, the odd comment that reminds me that I most certainly am not one of the stupid ones. And I feel incredibly bad for the fans that are. Because most of them, it's not their fault. Most of them have been hardwired to be negative. They've been hardwired to assume that AEW is lying to them because WWE always lie. So lying and deceiving fans is a part of pro wrestling because of the WWE. Deceit and lying is now more important to the WWE fan base than stories, because they don't know a good story from a bad one. And even the stories that the company put out thinking that they're good are trash. Like, if someone tells me they honestly like the Rusev-Lana story right now, and remember where Rusev was several years ago, think about that US title match against John Cena. Rusev was unbeaten. John Cena, right, came out in a fucking tank. Is that the same Rusev we're dealing with now? The same guy who's going to court with his wife on Raw because she's shagging a black guy. Because it had to be a black guy, because you see, they've already done the angle where Lana's shagging a white guy. When they did it with Dolph Ziggler, and Rusev did it with Summer Rae. And that was when Rusev started to develop a bit of personality. And that was fine, because we'd done it. But now we're doing it again, and we're doing it with Bobby Lashley. Bobby fucking Lashley. Look at the guy. The dude looks like a superhero, and he's in a cuck story? Like, seriously, like, it's a nightmare. Like, that's a nightmare. That's gotta be. Surely. If you were Rusev right now, all that dominance, you come out in a fucking tank, and now you're in the middle of a cuck storyline. Like, wouldn't that really just fuck you off? Seriously, WWE makes you angry. WWE makes you resentful. They make you hate being a wrestling fan. They make you watch Raw and go, well, I understand why my friends don't watch this. But why do I watch it? Because I'm compelled by the sport that is wrestling. The actual sport aspect. I can't help it. I like wrestling. I hated it as a kid because someone told me it was fake. But when I got older, you know, I knew it was fake, but I also grasped the concept of, yeah, it's fake, but if a guy gets dropped on his head, he gets dropped on his head. Yeah, because wrestling was presented to me as a kid. To be honest, if I was a teenager, right? Say, if I was a teenager, we'll say the age when I got into WWE, when I was watching stuff. So 14, 15 years old, right? I got into it from watching clips of realistic stuff. It was usually not matches. It was usually promo stuff. One of the very first things I watched was Edge's retirement speech in the middle of the ring, and immediately that it immediately clicked for me, like, oh shit, you know, there is a sporting aspect to this. And that idea that a guy's career could end because of one bad move, or could end short because of a collection of bad moves. It made it feel more real, you know. That was what made it real for me. And at the moment, like, WWE's so bad that looking at it now, I go, injured stars have it lucky. Edge's early retirement was the Lord protecting his legacy from Vince McMahon, because if Edge was still able to wrestle, I'm sure he's probably going to end up wrestling one more match. I think that's a definite. But yeah, I mean, fuck. Could you imagine Edge if he hadn't have retired? How much shit he would be put through? How much terrible stories? A cuck storyline with involving Beth Phoenix, you know that would happen. Probably with Christian. Just shit. It's like, just give me a break. If you want to watch pro wrestling and you want to enjoy pro wrestling, watch AEW, watch New Japan, watch Fight TV. Yeah, go on Fight TV. Fight TV give you MLW for free. They give you Ring of Honor for free. You've got to pay for Impact, but Impact's not that good. Yes, I said it. I think Tessa Blanchard is amazing, but Impact suck. That's... no one is going to convince me otherwise on that one. I watched Joey Ryan have a match with Ken Shamrock, and it was so wrong for every reason. Like, you couldn't have picked two worse opponents for each other for a match. Anyway, watch NWA, watch MLW, and if you can, watch AEW. Because if you watch these shows, you will be an extremely happy fan. You will be an extremely happy fan. And when you're a happy fan, you get into the wrestlers more. You get involved with the stories. You actually start to feel like you are a part of something, and you're not just being told how to feel, who to like, and when to do whatever. It's yours. If someone takes off, they'll take off. If someone is seen as a jobber, they'll probably be jobbed out, you know, and occasionally have their moments. This is an interesting idea, and again, people being so hypercritical of it are going to ruin it, because I can't stand the unnecessary criticism. They can't build stars like WWE. Like I said, WWE haven't built a star since the fucking Shield. It might happen with Keith Lee now, right? Because he showed up on the WWE pay-per-view. Let's be realistic, right? How many people watch a WWE pay-per-view? Probably less than 100,000. They'd be lucky if it was over 100,000 for all that crap that they fucking show on it, right? That's not enough people to get Keith Lee over. Certainly not on the main roster. If you want to get Keith Lee over, you've got to give him an upset win at WrestleMania. That is how you will get Keith Lee over. If Keith Lee has a match against... who put on a good match against Keith Lee from the main roster? You know what? Because he's a dick. We'll say Seth Rollins. If we've got Seth Rollins in there with Keith Lee, and Keith Lee beat Rollins, you've made a star. But the thing is, that's too much like hard work for the WWE, so we're not going to see it. Keith Lee is a star in the fans' eyes, but will he become a star full stop? That's up to Vince McMahon. And he's a big man, and Vince likes big men, so I mean that's a pretty good sign. But if I was to be honest, I would say Keith Lee is just going to be given a quote-unquote WWE push, which is a month, 2 months, and if they can't get over in that time, they're done with them. Right? So, are you seriously telling me that that process can get people over more than AEW? Are you really telling me AEW has done a bad job at this point? that WWE give 2 months to get one person over and usually can't. AEW have been on TV for 2 months, and I guarantee you, you already know more names than you did walking into this. You know Jungle Boy, you know Luchasaurus, and I bet most of you don't even know that Luchasaurus was meant to be in the Wyatt family. Fuck's sake, I fucked that up. Yeah, Luchasaurus was originally going to do what Braun Strowman was drafted in to do. Just think about that for a moment. Not as Luchasaurus, but as his character... I couldn't tell you his character's name. So Luchasaurus, shoulda, coulda, woulda been WWE. They released him because of an injury. Now look what he's doing. Jungle Boy, right? This actually, you know what? Let's talk about the one last big factor that is a massive difference between the two companies, right? If you want to watch a really talented kid, you've got to go watch NXT, right? Because that's the system. If you want to get it to the main roster, you've got to prove yourself on NXT first, which takes years before they acknowledge you. Ask the first female referee everyone's made a big deal out of. Right? She signed with WWE over 2 years ago, and it's taken them 2 years to put her on the main roster. And that's a referee. Right? That's a referee. Right, sorry, I got a little bit distracted there. I was just reading a text. Right, where was I? Yeah, if you want to get over in NXT, say you're 22, you're about 26 by the time you get to the main roster, okay? That's alright, you're still young, you've got a load of years left. But, in AEW, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who's 21, 22 years old, he's ages with me, is on the main show. And guess what, folks? He's over. Along with Luchasaurus and along with Marco Stunt even. They've managed to get fucking Marco Stunt more over than WWE can get Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, Ali. And it's just, oh my god. It's like, how have you not been able to manage this? The talent is so good. They're just offering you ideas and matches of the year just on a plate, and you're just saying, I don't want this shit, I want my shit. It's, oh god. WWE will never die out because they have too much money, too much hype, and the fact is they are the biggest foundational block on professional wrestling. However, that doesn't mean that AEW is just going to fall into the category as the second best. Because they're not trying to beat WWE. WWE are trying to beat them, and they haven't. People will argue, oh, well, NXT's pretty much neck and neck with them. It's like, yeah, and isn't that embarrassing? Because AEW started 2 years ago. NXT is, what, 10 years old? It's unbelievable that NXT aren't wiping the floor with fucking AEW. It's amazing that they're not. And I'll tell you why it's not. Because the hype is not there. Because it's WWE. Doesn't matter how good the talent is. WWE could have signed Kenny Omega, right? And Omega might have just not bothered to go to AEW because the offer from WWE would have been so good. WWE would have killed Kenny Omega in a year. After a year, he will be a nobody because he's not 6'8" and he doesn't weigh over 300 pounds. Or at least 6 foot. Or his McMahon's key seems to be 6'3", 6'4", anywhere between 250 to 300 pounds seems to be his go-to preferred men. But, like, just think about that. Like, seriously, if one company can get Marco fucking Stunt over in 2 months, and WWE can't get all of the guys they've got over in the same amount of time, in some cases, like Aleister Black and Ricochet, they're over to an extent, but are they over to getting large pops from the crowd? No. Right? So they're not over. People just like them because they know to expect good wrestling. Which is fine. But they're not over. And they went to the main roster last year before WrestleMania. It's incredible. Like, it really is. And I don't know, man. I think it's ridiculous. I really do. I just think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous that WWE can't do the basic shit. And I get it, right? I'm accusing fans of being couch critics, and I'm a couch critic, but I'm doing it differently. I'm not just doing it by taking things to a personal level, or by having a bias, or having an agenda, because my life is too short for that. My life, I just want to watch good wrestling. I got into wrestling, and then WWE were making me fall out in love with wrestling, to the point where I was like, well, I just want to know about wrestling. I don't want to watch it, I just want to know about it. So I started to watch older stuff, and then I started to get into watching YouTube channels like What Culture, Wrestle Talk, Wrestling Observer, shit like that. And then I discovered the indie scene. And oh my god, the wrestling that I've been looking for has existed this whole time. Exciting matches, some stories, cohesive stories, compelling characters, genuine characters. I was blown away. I watched New Japan. That shit's in Japanese, and I was more emotionally invested in that than I am WWE. What does that tell you? It tells you that WWE need a change. They already are changing. They've worked on the women's roster. They've done division. All the things that AEW basically set out to do, WWE have done to try and undermine AEW's existence, which is a very smart business way of doing things, and it's very scummy. And that's WWE in a nutshell. Very good at business, extremely scummy, and very out of touch with people. Extremely out of touch with people. Painfully out of touch with people. So, if you are a wrestling fan, and you've listened to this entire rant, some of the points, I haven't exactly made my case, right? I'm not trying to get people to boycott WWE. In an ideal world, right, I can watch Monday Night Raw and enjoy it. I can watch AEW and enjoy it. I can watch SmackDown and enjoy it. But the fact is, I watch SmackDown, I want to rip my eyes out. I watch Raw, I feel like I'm being taken on a mindfuck. And I watch AEW, and it's the best damn thing I've watched ever. Not bias, it just is. I'm intrigued. I'm more intrigued by Marco Stunt. I'm more intrigued by Kip Sabian. I'm more intrigued than Britt Baker than I am over Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Becky Lynch. Because Becky Lynch's popularity is just because the fans wanted her to be popular. And they tried to turn her heel, and the fans said, no, we're not having that. And gave her the push that she always wanted, that she always needed. She deserved the push, right? But she's not one of the best. She deserves to be popular, but God, she is not one of the best. She is not. Charlotte is one of the best. Sasha Banks is one of the best. Becky is extremely overrated for for what people call her. People call her the greatest of all time in women's wrestling. It's like, what? What, just because the gimmick's over? Again, accident. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, right? But there's a right way to look at things and there's a wrong way to look at things. And the wrong way to look at things is to join WWE's idealisms and start treating this like a war. If you watch AEW and you watch WWE, it's like watching sports entertainment and pro wrestling. They are nothing alike. They are absolutely nothing alike. And that's something that I just wish was more clear and people would just be more accepting of. But no, people want AEW gone because it's unacceptable for there to be choice. God forbid if people have choice, right? God, that is such a travesty. God, and that is why fans are the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Because all this stupidity, all this nonsense is fueled and created because that's what it looks like you want. In football, people are just delusional, but in wrestling, it's a whole other game. People's intelligence has been undermined for so long in wrestling that they can't handle wrestling that doesn't insult them. When a wrestling show expects them to get their own information, to look up certain names, to get interested, to get invested, right? Wrestling fans are like, no, we don't want to go look it up. Shove it down our throats for us. And that sounds stupid, but that's because it is stupid. That's the mentality. I look at the fans and that's exactly how it reads. And that's why I love AEW. Because I like going out and looking at numbers. I like looking at results. I like stats. I like finding out characters' backgrounds. Everyone talked about the Butcher and the Blade and how no one knew who they were. And I didn't know who the fuck they were until, an hour later. When I went online and went, oh, that's Ali's husband, and oh, that's the guitarist from every Time I Die. Mystery solved. Right? Again, information age, people. Use it. Fucking use it. Right? I'm not a smart man. I'm far from it. And my position in life, I look like a total dumbass compared to everyone else, right? But if I'm able to use my fucking brain to point out these obvious things, surely you can too. Like, surely we are not all WWE brainwashed idiots. We're not. Right? We're sports fans. We like competition. We like it when there's upsets. We like it when things happen that should happen. We like watching things happen. We like watching history being made. Right? Don't let WWE take that away from it. Right? History is being made every day. Every day AEW has a show, they are making history. And we should be extremely thankful for that. And if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But for the love of God, if you love wrestling, why the fuck wouldn't you watch it? Because it's good. And it is more than just that they don't treat you like idiots. It's the fact that it's new. Look at the quality. Of course there's issues. It's only been on TV for 2 months. Again, NXT has had nearly a decade to work on this shit. And then they got put on the network, and so they've had years of used to putting on a show. AEW just started. They just started. And there's maybe 3 guys on that roster? Maybe 4 who are used to being on a televised product? And you tell me AEW have failed in what they set out to achieve. You are delusional. You need to just stop. You need to calm down, and you need to enjoy the ride. This has been Nelson CEP. I hope you enjoy sports as much as I do. Go out, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's WWE after all they're competing with. So WWE is probably going to try and kill them at every turn. So try to enjoy it whilst it lasts. Thank you.